I think he's the man that saved my life, and I owe a great debt of gratitude and a great deal of respect for him.
Alex Goodwin, the young man from England, was the toast of Kansas City 6 years ago. He's back for treatment, and we're going to show you how he's doing today. Good morning. It's Wednesday, March the 8th. I'm Dr. Steve Stites, Chief Medical Officer of the University of Kansas Health System, and welcome back to Open Mics with Dr. Stites. Back in 2017, Alex Goodwin became an instant celebrity when he and his family made the 4,200-mile journey to Kansas. Well, they're back and with us live today, along with the doctor Alex credits for saving his life. We're going to catch up with all of them in just a moment to find out how Alex's unique treatment for bone cancer has gone and what's next. First, let's do some morning rounds. We're getting our first look at a brand new SUV, I want this car by the way, that will be rushing doctors to the scenes of emergencies. That means patients who are having the worst day of their life can get the best possible care started before they get into an ambulance. That's right, doctors going to the scene. You know, we're kind of like making house calls again. Well, let's meet two doctors who will be responding to emergencies in this SUV. Dr. Brian Beaver is the head of the EMS and Disaster Medicine Fellowship Program. Okay, that means it's a training program for people who want to participate in this kind of work. And Dr. Ali Briggs is going through that EMS and Disaster Fellowship. They're here to show us what the EMS Physician Response Vehicle, okay, we got to find a faster way to say that, folks. EPRV, the EPRV. Tell us about this thing. What kind of emergencies do you guys respond to?
Absolutely. Thanks for having us, Dr. Stites. And you can say KU Med 1 for shorter. So we'll respond to anything and everything.
Like yeah. All right.
There you go. KU Med 1 will be our radio call sign. So anything and everything we can respond to. Primarily anytime EMS needs us for something that would be a physician level skill that they're not able to do. But we also work so closely with EMS that we're available anytime they need us for anything. If we happen to be the closest in the area, we may go ahead and respond.
So how do you know when and where? It's like which accidents to go to, because there are a lot of accidents. You can't be everywhere at once.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So there are a couple of ways that EMS can request for us to go to a scene. All of the local EMS agencies have a medical director that they can contact, and we provide that medical direction for several of the agencies within the Kansas City region, and so that they can reach their medical director to request us, or they can radio for us the same way that they would dispatch any unit, the same way they would call for an ambulance or a fire truck by requesting KU Med 1 on the radio.
Okay, so does your siren really work, and do you get to turn it on?
Yes.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does. It is very loud.
And who gets to drive?
So both Dr. Beaver and I are insurance to drive this vehicle, so we get to take it out and respond to calls. But we are also able to take other learners with us. So we have several emergency medicine residents who could ride along, or other interested faculty or staff from anywhere within the health system.
Well, if you ever need a driver, just let me know. I'm available. So now what are you able to do at the scene that a paramedic can't do?
Yeah, we're able to do quite a bit, and we can actually squeeze around here. So we carry the basic equipment that we need if we're first on scene for something, but then we also carry specialized equipment. So for things like if there were an entrapment that needed a field amputation, or heaven forbid, a perimortem C-section. We're also available for things like mass casualty incidents, where we could actually triage, treat on scene, and clear people from the scene, keep them from having to come to an already overwhelmed, potentially health system.
Paramedics are very skilled. They're able to do a lot of procedures, but all of those procedures fall within protocols that are written by the medical director, who is a physician working with them. And sometimes patient presentations fall outside of their protocols, and they need physician oversight to help them decide what the next thing to do for the patient should be.
So do they wait until the paramedics get to the scene and then they call you? Because that seems like a delay. Or do they kind of get a sense before and they say, hey, we need you available right now, come on, let's go?
Yeah, there's a mix of both. So 911 dispatching, when a patient calls 911, is able to screen for a lot of patient complaints and presentations to decide what level of an emergency that patient is experiencing. And those people are highly trained and skilled and can tell just from the chief complaint over a phone call how much care that patient might need and what units they should call for, including for us sometimes.
Wow, so what's the furthest one you've gone to?
Oh, I mean, we can respond really anywhere on the Kansas side of the metro. I mean, out to the edges of kind of Bonner Springs and Edwardsville, all the way to the southern end of Johnson County. So really Johnson County, Kansas City, Kansas, Bonner Springs, Edwardsville, any of those places we can respond.
All right, well, I'd love to sit here and talk with you guys longer, but Dr. Beaver, you look like you're a little cold out there. You got your hands in your pockets, you're kind of chilling.
Yes.
It is a little chilly. That's why we keep the extra gear so we can stay warm once in a while.
I bet. And you're ready to get in that car, turn on, let's go. How many, do you guys go a lot? I mean, every day, once a week? How often are you out there?
Yeah, multiple times a week. We are out and about. We're available 24/7. One of us is available to respond at any time, but multiple days a week we're out there.
Yeah. The health system has a total of 3 EMS physicians, and so we are available for all the patients in the area.
That is remarkable. Thank you very much. I can't wait for my ride in KU Med 1, and that is a service unlike any other, and I think really a great thing to do for people who are, suffering at the scene of an accident or some other problem where they need that kind of response time. So thank you so much for the great work y'all are doing.
Absolutely. Anytime. We're happy to have you, give you a ride.
All right. 6 years ago, Alex Goodwin was a 9-year-old boy from the United Kingdom with a cancerous leg bone. He couldn't get the treatment he needed at home, but found a doctor at the University of Kansas Cancer Center who knew just what to do. Alex's journey made him a media sensation both here and around the world. Here's how Jessica Lovell covered Alex's story for us, which began back in 2017.
It's so rough that sometimes I feel like my dreams shatter up into tiny pieces. It's so hard on me.
At just 9 years old, Alex Goodwin was in the fight of his life after being diagnosed with bone cancer. He underwent chemotherapy treatments, which were not enough to kill the cancer.
Alex had a cancer, a very rare cancer actually, called a Ewing sarcoma. It involved the entire femur, the entire thigh bone, all the way from the hip all the way down to the knee.
That's when Alex and his parents traveled from the UK to receive life-saving treatment here at the University of Kansas Cancer Center, where Dr. Howard Rosenthal replaced Alex's existing bone with a grower bone.
And then we put in a non-invasive growing or expandable prosthesis. This is an artificial femur.
This technology allows doctors to adjust the prosthesis non-invasively to grow as Alex grows. Now, nearly 2 years after the procedure, Alex has his spirit and his hair back.
I think it's great. I used to be like Dad's hair, but now it's a lot straighter.
The ultimate goal is obviously to get him walking independently again, which is completely polar, apart from where we were when we were worried that we weren't even going to save his life. So it's amazing.
And it is hard to watch for me as a parent, for my husband as well, but it has to be done. That is the only way. There's no point having a new leg if he's not going to use it.
Finally, up and out of his wheelchair, Alex was able to show Dr. Rosenthal how he is starting to walk, even without crutches.
Push down hard. He's a champion. He made it through. His disposition is always amazing. We come out of seeing him and always have a smile on our face.
I just want to have a normal life like everybody else when this is all over and I can walk. And I won't feel like I don't have a mechanical bone. I'll just feel like I have a normal human bone.
Dr. Rosenthal seems to be happy with what we've done, so we are going to step it up again and continue, because at the end of the day, he's got to run down that beach one day. It's a big dream.
Wow. All right, joining us live from here in the Metro is 15-year-old Alex Goodwin and his dad, Jeffrey. And with us in the studio is Dr. Howard Rosenthal, the orthopedic surgical oncologist who performed this procedure here at the University of Kansas Cancer Center. Alex, all right, talk to us. Have you taken that run on the beach that your mom mentioned yet?
Yep, I have. We've recently moved down to the south of England, down in Dorset. We live near the beach, and I've finally been able to achieve that dream of running down it. And
it's more of a walk, really, but at least we're on the beach.
Well, yeah.
Thank you for letting us join you today.
Well, that is awesome. And can I just say, Alex, your voice is a little deeper than it was on the video. How long has it been since the video was shot, man?
I think at least 4 years ago.
Maybe 3 years ago.
Yeah, 3 to 4 years ago.
Okay, so you've grown, and that leg's grown with you.
Yes, it has. So what's happened is, as Dr. Rosenthal will probably mention, it's reached its limit now with the bone extension, and we were supposed to be having a surgery. That was
later.
Oh yeah, sorry.
It's okay. So yeah, we were coming back periodically to Kansas for the extensions, which were by a magnet process. So it has grown with him, but unfortunately, as you can see, he's rapidly accelerated in growth and in his tone of voice.
That's pretty cool. So now we saw you struggling to walk a little bit. It sounds like you're walking better for your walking on the beach.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah.
Well, that's great. It was six.
Sorry, go on, sir. Okay.
You go ahead, sir.
I was just going to say, so his walking has improved significantly. At first, obviously, he was struggling just to make a few steps, and he was heavily reliant on walking aids, and occasionally he would have to go back into his wheelchair. But over the years since the surgery, he has rapidly improved, and with the physical therapy and the chiropractic work and the guidance from Dr. Rosenthal, he's managed to achieve what I feared may not be achievable, which is that he would be able to walk independently with very limited walking aid support, which is amazing.
Yeah, Jeffrey, it was 6 years ago that Alex was first diagnosed back in your home in the UK. For our viewers who may not remember the details, can you take us through the brief history of how you found out about that and where things are today?
Of course. So sadly, it started in Christmas 2015. Alex started to have pain, discomfort, and sadly he was misdiagnosed by the health system in the United Kingdom for 6 months. And by the time they finally discovered that he had this rare form of cancer called Ewing sarcoma, which you touched upon earlier in the report, they said sadly that they couldn't do anything for him. It had metastasized into his hips, and they would just make him comfortable until the end. Which is something that as a father I could never ever accept. So I took a huge process in hand, and we discovered KU, we discovered Kansas City and KU, and there was a glimmer of hope that there may be an opportunity for us to get the treatment that he needed there through the pioneering surgery that you guys were doing at the time, and Dr. Rosenthal was spearheading. So we managed to raise the funds to come over with a tremendous amount of support from people in the UK, people in the United States, and the rest of the world, really. And Alex had a social media account that we still use. He's got 44,000 followers on that social media account, where we passed the good news messages over. And we came over, and frankly, without putting too fine a point on it, you guys saved his life for me, and I'll be forever in your debt and truly grateful.
So, Dr. Rosenthal, we saw in Jessica's story how you are using what's called a grower bone to help Alex. Walk us through what that is and look at back over the last 6 years. Talk to us about what's going on here and how this works. And I mean, this is approximately a very big deal.
Yes, this is technology and the way we want to progress it. Realize that when a 9-year-old child comes to us with a cancer that is a limb-threatening type of a cancer, so not only are we dealing with a life-threatening issue, but we're certainly dealing with a limb-threatening issue as well. We know that for Ewing sarcoma, the primary treatment being surgical resection and chemotherapy, that we can do. The problem is how do we reconstruct the leg? In Alex's case, his cancer went all the way up to the cup of the hip, or the acetabulum, so even an amputation at the hip level would not have given us good, clear margins. He presented with a very aggressive form of the disease, and we had to deal with, again, the removal of all of the disease, but then the reconstruction. So we have ways of reconstructing a limb with either bone transplants or artificial prosthetic limbs. But the problem is you've got a 9-year-old child that's got several years and feet of growth to go. Metal and transplanted bones do not grow. So this prosthesis is what we call a non-invasive expandable prosthesis. A non-invasive meaning we don't have to go back into the patient to lengthen it. We administer a electrical, or actually an electromagnetic current, and the prosthesis grows. So Alex would come back from England every 3 months for a couple of years, and we'd apply a circular, it looks like a small MRI scanner, over his leg. If you notice on the video, I was actually listening with a stethoscope to his ankle. What I'm actually listening for is the mechanism of the prosthesis, and we can qualitatively and quantitatively expand or grow his limb at the same rate that the rest of his body is growing.
That is amazing to me. So is his cancer gone?
So for Ewing sarcoma, the 5-year milestone, which he is well past, he's at 6 years now, is that final milestone. So I don't like to ever say that you are completely cured of your cancer. We are always going to be diligent and watching, and we will be monitoring them for at least a decade, and in all honesty more, because I just like Alex and his dad. But as of now, he has reached that milestone where there is no evidence of cancer in his body. So he gets to ring the gong in our office.
That's just got to feel, he's got to ring the bell, and that has got to be the most remarkable thing for a dad and really for the patient to hear. I mean, I just sit here, I get a little weepy about just thinking about that. So now that Alex is 15 and obviously has grown a lot, does the grower bone still keep up with him, or what's next?
So we just completed our skeletal survey as well as our scanograms, which actually measures radiographically the limb lengths, and we're really, really close. The other side's growth plates are essentially closed, so we're pretty much where we are. And in the old days, when I say old days, when we're talking about this prosthesis, I could be talking about last week, certainly last year. The technology was such that we would expect to have to replace this with a permanent or adult prosthesis, which was our original plan. And I think Jeff remarked about that at this interview. However, we're finding, and I've been putting these in now for about 15 years, that these are lasting for a lot longer than we ever expected. So the plan is now, let Alex be Alex. I told Alex that we're going to go on, we're going to move from Alex's journey, his social media platform about his journey through cancer treatment, to being Alex, just being a regular kid who wants to do anything he wants. I mentioned in the office that in my mind, with the extent of disease and what he hit a grand slam. But I told him I can't say that because he's British. So I told him he hit a century, which is a grand slam in cricket.
You know, I was just going to ask him if he watches Ted Lasso and if he loves that show or not. And do you watch Ted Lasso, Alex?
No, I don't. I've watched it, and I'm aware of it, yeah.
Aware of it is not exactly a ringing endorsement. We love it here in the States. All right. Alex, you were still a little kid, right? You were a little kid back then, and now you are a young man. Do you remember what you first thought when you heard the word cancer? And then, what did you think when you had to hear you're going to go to America for treatment? And did you know where Kansas was? So let's start with the first part. Talk to us about the word cancer.
Well, still to this day, I mean, I understand the basics of the disease, the fact that it's mutated DNA, not DNA, cells in the body. And
how did you feel when you were told that you had cancer?
Devastated. I mean, as usual, any little kid wouldn't really understand, but I understood that from my parents' perspective, it was really bad, and I just didn't know what to expect of me.
And what did you think about having to go to America?
It was nice. I would say, like, you know, with America, I've always situated the United Kingdom as my home, but it would be nice to visit other places outside of that well, that side of the country, or even that part of the world.
So here, just be honest. Did you have any clue where Kansas was when they said we're going to go see Dr. Rosenthal?
Pardon? Sorry?
Oh, did you know where we were? I mean, Kansas City's right there in the middle of the country. It's kind of a long way from everywhere.
No, at first I didn't know at all where it was, but I'm really happy that I came here. We've made some lifelong friendships here, and I'm forever in debt to Dr. Rosenthal and his amazing team for everything that they've done for me, and I just want to feel like I can help the city in a way, any way I can in the future.
You know, I'll tell you, when you get those big hugs from patients like we saw early on in the video, there is nothing better because you know what a success that has been. Talk to us a little bit about what Dr. Rosenthal means to you.
Well, he's a special person. He's very talented, a man of his craft, and overall just an amazing person, a joy to all his peers, and he's a great teacher to all of his students, and overall an amazing friend to everyone he meets.
So Dr. Rosenthal, seeing his success, that's got to mean a lot to you.
Well, I actually have told Alex also, because I really do appreciate your words and I feel it, and I've always said that part of the success of being a cancer surgeon is the thank yous, which are truly different from a regular thank you that we get from normal everyday activities, but are truly heartfelt. But I've always said Alex has actually inspired me probably more than I inspired him. And I really appreciate that from both you and Alex, you and Jeff, your dad, who has truly shown us what family is all about.
Those are good words. Alex, your dad wrote the first book about you called Alexander's Journey, and we understand you're going to write the sequel. You're very well known on social media. How does it feel to know that you're an inspiration to so many people around the world?
I think it's definitely something to grasp. And I think the fact is I'm happy as a human being to help others feel the same joy that I felt when I was younger, and I'd like to continue that, like, you know, as you said, making the sequel to Alexander's Journey, like showing how the things have progressed over time, and overall just the amazing fact of making friends and enjoying life.
Alexander's life. What is your life like today as a teenager, and where do you go from here?
I have several plans in the future. I mean, thanks to my dad inspiring me, I'd like to become an author. I've got ideas in the works on, like, you know, a fiction story, and just to try and live life my own way, my way of living, and just enjoy the life and animals around me.
Those are yes. Okay, I'm sure our viewers have some great questions for Alex and his dad and for Dr. Rosenthal. Get your sent in to us now on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and the Medical News Network. You'll find those links right here on your screen. Jessica Lovell will join us in a few moments with those questions. But now we're going to turn our attention to Dr. Dana Hawkinson, Hawkeye, Medical Director of Infection Prevention and Control. How are we doing today, Hawk?
Hey, yeah, good. You know, Steve, we were down to 20 active infections in the hospital yesterday. We have seen some vacillation, but really have stayed in those mid-20s. So right now, 50 total in the hospital, but 25 active, 4 in the ICU, and 2 on the ventilator. So we're kind of just really staying steady.
We are staying steady. So Hawkeye, though, we made a big change here at KU, and it started this morning. I want to let our viewers know about that. We are moving to take off masks inside the health system.
Yeah.
And let's talk about what that means. So we're still going to mask in patient care areas where the patients are at high risk, or if anybody's feeling ill, or if somebody just feels like they still want to wear masks. But otherwise, we're not requiring masks, even in patient encounters. You know, it's an interesting balance, and it sometimes is a hard question. There is patient safety, but patient safety can be defined both as a transmissible infectious disease, also our ability to communicate and see each other in full person. And I think there's always will be a balance, and we'll monitor this very carefully. If we don't really, and we've said this all along, because of masking, we haven't really transmitted COVID inside the hospital. We've watched that incredibly carefully. What we know, though, is that vaccination has made all the difference, right? Vaccination plus immunity gain through infection, but really stay safe, vaccination, because we know even with the current COVID, or the current SARS-CoV-2 variants, that vaccination really does protect you from becoming really critically ill. So what we know is that so many people have been vaccinated and or infected, and sometimes multiple times, plus therapy with Paxlovid and remdesivir. We're in a better place in the pandemic. And our ability to truly see each other is important. And so we're striking that balance between trying to stay safe. So if you go to a transplant area, you go to the cancer program, you go to our cystic fibrosis program, masking. But if you're other patients here, and for our staff, we are unmasking in most of our patient care areas.
Yeah, and we are still highly recommending it. I don't want to speak for my infectious disease colleagues, but I have a feeling that most of us are still going to be wearing masks for some amount of time. I mean, it will take some time to get used to the change in policy for sure. But it is, it is safe, patient safe, employee safe, all of that. That is our biggest goal. So we do understand masking is still one of the most effective ways to stop the spread of diseases. Remember when we went into the freezer to demonstrate that, Steve?
I do. It was a nice cold day, Hawk. Hey, there's a big breath cloud right there. But when we had our masks on, the breath cloud disappeared. So I'm with you, and I think we will have to keep a look at that mask. Man, you had a big breath cloud. What is that?
Well, I don't know. I might have had some
a lot of hot air, so I don't know.
Some garlic or something. Maybe I had lunch.
So I think at the end of the day, we will monitor this very carefully. And again, it is a balance we've waited to do. We've been trying to strike it carefully. We've followed and we've watched what's going on across the country around it. And what I can safely say is that I believe this is the right time to remove masks, even in healthcare settings, as long as we're very careful in monitoring and make sure we don't see any increased transmission from staff to patients. At the end of the day, that will force us to put masks right back on.
Yeah, I think that's the important point, is we do reserve that right. And of course, there will be some areas where we will probably likely always go straight back to masking, like in the respiratory viral season, in the BMT units, possibly the transplant units. We were doing that prior to the pandemic, so that practice will not change as well. And certainly we will work in close conjunction with all of our care team providers to find those best practices.
And we know if anybody's symptomatic, there's no choice. Put your mask on. Because you may have, who knows what virus to transmit, and there are a lot of sick people wandering our hallways. So if you're symptomatic, you still got to wear a mask.
Absolutely.
Okay. Here's a COVID headline we want to mention. According to the journal Nature, an antiviral called, I'm not going to say it, ensitrelvir?
Yeah.
Not bad. Shortened symptoms of mild to moderate COVID-19 by about a day.
Yeah.
And is the first drug to make a significant cut in the number of days people test positive for SARS-CoV-2. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's great. So first of all, this is a drug that has a similar action to what Paxlovid does. Right now, I think it's approved or maybe about to be approved in Japan. So it's not available here. We still need to do the research on it. But I think this study and this drug just lends more to the fact that we need to continue to have those resources put forward for research and development for this disease as well, and coming up with second generation vaccines and better drugs to treat the infection, whether it's oral or IV. That is all going to be very important moving forward. This is one of those, and we'll kind of see where the rest of the study goes out and what the data is and supports it. But I think anytime we can have more drugs to use for a disease, particularly for this disease, it's always going to be better. So I think we're optimistic that this will help. That this will help us, and we can use it in the future.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. All right, Jess, let's see if there's any reporter questions today. Not hearing any. We're going to You go.
Yep, let's go. All right, let's get to, well, I've got a nice comment for Dr. Rosenthal. Your patient, Jan, I guess she saw you yesterday. She jumped on this morning and said that Dr. Rosenthal replaced my hip and femur damage with myeloma. She's 81 years old. She's doing really well and enjoying her great-grandchildren. So I think that's a big thank you to Dr. R, as she says. So just wanted to share that with you.
We actually compared the number of grandchildren that each of us have, so it was a very pleasurable type of experience. Yeah, these types of prostheses or reconstruction options that we have now are truly remarkable, allowing patients to get back to normal lives with both their legs functioning well, and it's really gratifying to see.
Yes, comparing grandchildren, that is a good sign. Question from Joe Ellen, and this is to Jeff and Alex, just wanting to know, have they made, I already know the answer to this, but have you made a lot of friends outside the medical community here in Kansas City? Have you been able to explore KC, and kind of what's your favorite thing? And I know it's the barbecue, I already know that answer.
We've made a tremendous number of friends, haven't we? Yeah. Here, friends that we'll treasure for life now. But we've seen lots of interesting things here. The World War I Memorial is somewhere where we like to go, and you like the TWA Museum as well. Yes. So we've been lucky when Alex lived here for almost a year. We went to Kansas City Zoo. Obviously, we've been following the Chiefs, and we've been lucky enough to go to Arrowhead a few times. So, and we've met Patrick Mahomes. Just thought I'd throw that in there, who seems to be a really nice chap, and just completely immersed in the culture here and made lifelong friends.
That's a pretty big deal. Can I just ask a question, though? Did you shake Patrick Mahomes' hand, Alex?
Yes, and I believe we got a T-shirt signed by him. Yeah, yeah, a T-shirt signed by him.
That's pretty cool. So I shook his hand one time. His hands are giant. Yeah, they engulfed me. Yeah. Jess.
Okay, question back for Dr. Rosenthal is, Samantha wants to know, how many grower bones have you done? How common is this, and how many have you done? Have you done a lot of them?
So I've done an awful lot of them. I truly can't keep track. I've been doing them since the first inception, which was a generation before the one that we did for Alex, and that goes back at least 20 to 25 years. In fact, just last night I heard from a patient who now lives in Atlanta, who I did one of the grower bones on, and he is dancing. He's in college now, doing a very physically active activity. We did an awful lot of those, and then we expanded on about 12, 15 years ago with the new non-invasive expandable prosthesis, like the one that Alex has, and we do quite a few of those. Ewing sarcoma, for example, and osteosarcoma are cancers that typically occur in the younger patients who have significant limb length discrepancies and a lot of limb length to grow. In the older days, we used to do more rotation plasties, which is where we turn the leg around and lengthen it to essentially a long below-knee amputation on a little stilt, which is also a very good operation, purely biologic. But nowadays, I'm doing more of these non-invasive growing prostheses. They're working out remarkably well.
Wow. Jess?
So I have one last question, and it's from Ruth Ellen, and I'll end with this based on the announcement that we made today about masking. But she wants to know about removing the mask. Will there still be questions to patients about COVID exposure or having COVID, and how many days after COVID should she keep her appointment? She says she's coming up to an appointment, but she's just coming off from having COVID. Just wants to know if she should keep her appointments and if those questions will be being asked over the phone.
You bet. And we can't answer those questions. The answer is yes. You should still keep your mask on. Yes, especially if you're after 10 days Hawkeye, you should keep your appointment.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we are working on those lines of questionings and those processes and protocols as well. We had modified them a little bit. Obviously, the masking situation now will then give us an impetus for modifying those questions in those processes even further in those areas such as clinics.
So I've got another question for Alex there. Now, so Alex, you know, the Chiefs happened to win the Super Bowl, and I know that's not as much as the World Cup, except maybe to me. But when they won the Super Bowl, it would have been like, what, 4:30 a.m. your time? Were you watching the game?
Yeah, a part of it. But
we fell asleep.
Yeah, but
we try and watch it.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think I'm happy that they won. It's a big pride for the city, and we saw pictures of the parade and all those people coming together and just enjoying it. Really, it's really awesome.
Yeah, that's great. So, Alex, what's your favorite thing to get up and do now that you can get up and walk and do stuff? What's your favorite thing?
Well, the place we live now, we live next to a castle, surprisingly, Corfe Castle. And it's just nice to go walking around it, go see the village, and just overall have a good time. And I like to go to the beach, as I stated earlier, and I just enjoy visiting places, really.
That's awesome. And I know you got to go catch a flight, so we got to let you go. And you get to fly out of our new airport, which is a little better than the old airport you've been to. So thank you guys so much for being on this program. This has been a fantastic program. I want to thank all of our guests. Final thoughts. First, I love that turn of phrase, a man of his craft. Dr. Rosenthal.
I still love what I do.
You do.
It brings me joy, as I say, it brings me inspiration, and I plan on continuing doing it for a long time.
Jeffrey, final thoughts?
I think when I say that you saved my son's life, I don't say it lightly. Everyone had kind of given up on us, and we came here and you accepted us as part of your community, and I'm forever grateful for that. And every time we come to KU, we have a positive experience, and the staff are truly dedicated. I'm not being paid to say this. It's a genuinely positive, enriching experience, and I'm truly grateful for you all.
Alex, what's your message for our viewers?
Work hard, enjoy life, and don't be afraid to ask people for help if you need to, and enjoy it. And have a great day. Stay awesome, and bye. Thank you all. Happy flying. I'm sure we'll see you again soon. Doc Hawk?
Yeah, it's hard to follow that. That's a great sign off. But so again, we are heading in a new direction. I think it's almost 3 years ago today that the Big 12 tournament was canceled right after that first game, I think. So we are in a different era right now, and we have those measures to help protect you. It's staying up to date with vaccination. We know even the new bivalent vaccines help reduce your risk of severe disease and hospitalization, especially if you're high risk. If you do get disease symptoms, please test early and get on that oral Paxlovid. That will help reduce your symptoms as well. You know, also those non-pharmaceutical interventions. There are plenty of other things out there that are trying to get us. So please continue to do adequate hand hygiene, frequent hand washing with soap and water, or the alcohol hand gel. And of course, if you do feel uncomfortable, it is always okay to mask still. We do see people who do mask, and Dr. Stites, you've known people who've worn masks forever because of certain conditions like immunosuppression. So it's always okay to do that, and just to understand your risks and keep yourself healthy. You know, I'm 63, prostate cancer, all that. You guys have heard that before. I still wear a mask when I feel a little at risk, and I think I'll still do that going forward. You know what I loved? What Alex said about community. At the end of the day, having a man of his craft and having a community is what we should all aspire to be. And especially when that community reaches around the world, and you see a father and a son, you realize how much closer we are than how much further apart we are, no matter the distance. Jess, back to you.
Dr. Stites, thanks so much. Thanks to all of our guests and to our viewers for being with us today. We will be back tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. with another morning medical update. We hope to see you then. Have a great day.
Coming up tomorrow on the Morning Medical Update. COVID-19 brought normal life to a standstill, but not life inside a hospital. I'm Jessica Lovell on the next Morning Medical Update. It's been 3 years since the first COVID patient arrived at the University of Kansas Health System. We look back at lessons learned and the very special connection between a COVID patient and his nurse. Thursday at 8. I'm Alexis Del Cid on the next All Things Heart.
When I was about 50, I started having high blood pressure and started having high sugar readings in my blood.
For 37 million people, type 2 diabetes is a real struggle. Are you one of them? The higher your blood sugar, the higher your risk of heart trouble. The steps you need to take right now to protect your heart, Thursday morning at 10.
Subscribe to our Morning Medical Update and Open Mics with Dr. Stites podcasts. Now, everywhere podcasts are available.